turn our attention to our conversations on CARICOM, as always, with Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, His Excellency David Comissiong. Ambassador, good morning.
Morning, Pearson.
In talking about this a few weeks ago, before we had that challenge we had last week, I said to people, I'll introduce you to Barbados' newest High Commissioner, non-resident High Commissioner to Trinidad and Tobago. And perhaps you could tell us who that is?
Well, as of the 16th of October, I am Barbados's non-resident High Commissioner to Trinidad and Tobago. It's actually my 8th High Commissionership. And one of the first ones was actually Jamaica. So I am Barbados's High Commissioner to Jamaica. And so, you know, I would really like to say to our brothers and sisters in Jamaica that our prayers are going out to them. In fact, just yesterday, we had a special mass at the St. Patrick's Roman Catholic Cathedral. Father Clement Paul and Miss Ella Hoyas, who is the Jamaica's honorary consul in Barbados, and the Jamaica-Barbados Association. So we are thinking about them, we are praying for them, and we are sending them our most positive vibrations. And we know how tension-filled a time this is for them, you know. So we are hoping for the best, but they can rest assured that whatever happens, their brothers and sisters in the Caribbean will be there to lend whatever assistance we can.
That is so important to hear and to know. I think it calms the spirit of Jamaicans who know that whatever happens, as you've said, we will all rise up together to stand in the gap for them, to give where necessary as well.
Yeah, that's the essence of the Caribbean integration movement, that we must be there for each other. And we have this wonderful CARICOM institution called CDEMA, you know, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency. It's headquartered right here in Barbados, and no doubt CDEMA is already making its plans as to how we will respond as a region.
All right. On another note, your recent visit to Trinidad and Tobago. Talk to us a little bit about what happened there.
It was really outstanding. I must say that of all my presentations of credentials as High Commissioner, this one really took the cake. The Trinis really know how to do it with pomp and ceremony. I mean, Pearson, I was given my own parade.
Wow.
with police horsemen, outriders.
Nice.
And yes, I mean, I really want to thank the government of Trinidad and Tobago for the splendid manner in which they treated me. You know, so it was really an action-packed 2 days that I spent there. And I want, at the outset, let me thank Barbados's honorary consul in Trinidad and Tobago, Dr. Roosevelt Rock, and his son Alan Rock, who took great care of me and the Foreign Service officers who accompanied me. But it was, as I said, a packed 2 days. I mean, we initially had the engagement at the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs in Trinidad and Tobago, meeting with the Permanent Secretary, Mr. Randall Karim, and that was preparation for the actual presentation of my letter of credential. My letter of credential from our President, Dame Sandra Mason, recommending me to the President of Trinidad and Tobago, Her Excellency Christine Kangaloo. And that was really a wonderful ceremony. And then during the 2 days, I was able to engage with the Spanish ambassador. I was able to do an engagement with my primary school in Trinidad, my old alma mater.
Yes.
At the National Library, I was able to do courtesy calls on the Venezuelan embassy in Trinidad and the Caribbean Telecommunications Union. So as you can see, I really packed a lot of activity into those 2 days.
And as you were speaking, we were sharing folks, you know, some of the images of that experience that which you just shared, indeed. But you've entered Trinidad and Tobago at a time when, you know, tensions between CARICOM, Venezuela, the U.S., and it's rich, it's real, it's powerful. What was the sense you got, having had those discussions with the Venezuelans, having had those discussions with the Trinidadians, generally, what was the sense you got?
Well, in terms of my engagement with the Trinidad and Tobago government, it was all about really Barbados, Trinidad and Tobago relations. And there are many things on the agenda that we need to attend to. So far as the courtesy call on the Venezuelan embassy, well, the ambassador, Alvaro Sanchez, is an old friend of mine. So we spent a lot of time discussing the challenge that they are now undergoing with this American military buildup targeting Venezuela. Probably next week, Pearson, I would like us to really examine in depth the concept of the Caribbean being a zone of peace and all of the issues associated with that. So I think that could be our discussion for next week. But I want to focus on the Barbados-Trinidad bilateral because they're so, with the previous, you know, there's a new government, just came to power this year, the Prasad Bisesar administration. And with the previous Keith Rowley administration, there were several agreements that we had made, you know. For example, I mean, a big one was when we signed the unitization agreement in 2020 for joint exploration and joint use of the hydrocarbon resources, the oil and gas resources that we suspect are straddling the border, the sea border, the maritime border between Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados. Also, under the Keith Rowley administration, we had signed an agreement, a memorandum of understanding, where Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago had agreed that we could come together and share diplomatic offices in countries like Nigeria, South Africa, Ghana, Kenya, and so forth. I mean, it has not been implemented yet. But the point is, there were a number of understandings with the previous administration, and so the question would be, will we be able to carry them forward with the new administration? I think we will, but it's gonna call for us doing some work together. Of course, there's the fishing agreement. We had meetings under the Rowley administration. The last meeting was in about October, November of 2023. We have to pick back up that issue again and bring it to a culmination. And there are several other issues. I think, you know, Trinidad is the biggest economy in CARICOM. It is one of our closest neighbors, just about 200 miles away from Barbados. And there has always been a tremendous intercourse between Barbados and Trinidad and Tobago. So there are many, many possibilities for deepening the bilateral relationship and bringing benefits to both countries. So there's a big agenda for me to work on.
Having it been a big agenda, what do you think you want to start first with?
Well,
what do you think is more pressing that we really do need to put some gas behind?
I think we have to get that fishing agreement sorted out because, you know, it has caused some embarrassment in the past, some tension with fishermen being arrested and so forth. And fortunately, and we keep fingers crossed, we haven't had any such incident for many years now, but we should not keep riding our luck. And, you know, it was agreed between us that we need to come together with other countries in the Eastern Caribbean and the academic community to do a study on the fishing stock. Because, you know, there's this big issue as to whether we're overfishing, whether Barbadian fishers are contributing to an overfishing problem. But the jury is out on that because we don't know if some of this depletion in the fish stock has to do with climate change, global warming, the sargassum invasion. So it was agreed on both sides that we really need knowledge and insight. And so, yes, so we agreed that we're going to have to carry out some kind of scientific study. But in addition to that, I mean, food, I mean, there's so many areas. In the area of the arts, I think there's so many things that we can do together, looking at our art forms, whether it's Trinidadian Calypso, Barbados Spooge, Tuck, whether it is dance, whether it is the visual arts. My thinking is that, you know, in our area of the Caribbean, we kind of constitute a kind of natural sub-region. Trinidad, Barbados, maybe Guyana, maybe St. Vincent, Grenada, and that there are many things that we could do together to share strengths and to lift our standards, whether it's in the arts, in sports. I think there are ways in which we could come together in this sub-region to lift our cricket, to lift our football, to lift our track and field, to give our sports persons more competition between each other, better training, lifting standards generally. Then there's the issue of, let's say, the ferry service that we've been speaking about for so long. You know, Dr. Rowley had volunteered that a Trinidad and Tobago ferry would become the core of a new ferry service linking Barbados, Trinidad, Guyana together. The boat that he had offered turned out not to be so suitable for such long distances, but that project is still very much on the table. So you name it. I think we could collaborate in the area of film, for example. I mean, Trinidad has certain advantages in terms of education in film. Barbados has just acquired the Banyan Archives,
Yes.
which is probably the biggest television archive in the Caribbean. We have acquired it, but Prime Minister Motley was very clear. We have acquired it not to keep it for ourselves, but to share it with our Trinidadian brothers and sisters, and indeed with the entire region. So I think all of these areas are great possibilities. I want us to revisit that idea of sharing the embassy space, and the whole idea is that every country doesn't have to go and invest all these resources in its own building, its own administrative staff. We could share. So Trinidad, we have embassies now in Ghana and Kenya. Trinidad does not have embassies in Ghana and Kenya, but they have embassies in Nigeria and South Africa. Couldn't we come together and put that agreement in effect so that Barbados could have a presence in Nigeria and South Africa, and likewise Trinidad in our facilities in Ghana and Kenya. So all of these are very exciting possibilities that I will be pursuing as the High Commissioner.
We're continuing our conversations on CARICOM with Barbados Ambassador to CARICOM, His Excellency David Comissiong, who is back. He's giving us a report of his recent visit to Trinidad and Tobago to be installed as the non-resident High Commissioner of Barbados to Trinidad and Tobago. And part of that visit now, I can't wait to tell the story of the visit to the day you were a little boy and you went into school. Let's talk a little bit about what that meant to you.
Well, you know, my father was a Methodist minister. So the Methodist ministers move around from island to island, 5 years here, 5 years there. So I happened to be born when he was stationed in St. Vincent. But at the age of 6, he was transferred to Trinidad and Tobago. And so I moved to Trinidad, and I went to school at a very famous primary school called Tranquility Primary. I often say it's the greatest primary school in the world because it produced people like Stokely Carmichael, Dr. Eric Williams, Tony Martin, and one David Comissiong. so I had when I was making arrangements to go to Trinidad to be installed as High Commissioner, the question arose, well, what engagements would you like to do? So I said, well, if I could visit my old primary school and engage with the students and make a presentation of some books to the school, I would like to do that. And so, yes, that was one of the highlights of the visit.
I can't imagine what that was. I know we do have some video of it, so we can share with our folks what that visit. And here it is, we're watching. Could you describe as we're watching?
So after telling the students all about Dr. Eric Williams and the school, the history of the school, I was then making a presentation here of the books that I had brought. So I brought them packages about CARICOM, lots of information for students about CARICOM, but also you would recognize that. That's
yes,
Dr. Alsop's book, the the Dictionary of Caribbean English Usage, the school's edition. So I took them a couple copies of that book. I took them a book on that I had produced on Right Excellent Errol Walton Barrow. I also gave them copies of the book I produced on the Pan-African love story of Arnold and Mignon Ford. Well, as I made it, that's the principal sitting there with me, Miss Nicole Guy Dunbar. That's the Pan-African love story.
Yes.
I was making the point that that's not for the children to read, but that's for the teachers to absorb the information and pass on to the children. And right there, I'm explaining to them that one of the things that perhaps we could do is to twin Tranquility Primary with an appropriate primary school in Barbados. And have the relationship between the two schools, and even have students visit. So I could envisage Tranquility is right in the heart of Port of Spain. I could envisage a school in Bridgetown being a counterpart and developing a relationship, and even having children visit in both directions, sit in the classroom, get that experience. But I think those are the kinds of things we need to do now. To really give deeper meaning to our Caribbean integration movement, to really root it in the people. And we could start as early as primary school children.
Walking back onto the compound, seeing not just familiar buildings alone, but the feel that the air was different. How was that for you?
Well, yes, the school is... it's more built up than when I was there. When I was there, we had much more space, open space to run around. But yes, it's a moving experience. Tell the truth, anytime I visit Trinidad and Tobago, I'm always drawn back to my old community. It's almost like a magnet.
Yes, yes.
And I find myself, if I'm in a hotel, I find myself leaving the hotel and walking back to those old areas to kind of relive those days. So I was in Trinidad. I was in Port of Spain between 1966 and 1971. This was the time of the Black Power uprising, 1970. So it was a very exciting time to be growing up in that city. It was a wonderful place to grow up, I must say. Right now, Port of Spain is something of a concrete jungle, but back then, that was not the case. It was really a very beautiful capital city, and of course very cosmopolitan. And as that Black Power uprising emerged, it was an experience that taught me many things, and actually prepared me well to come to Barbados and to go and live in a place called Highgate Gardens, with all of the class and race contradictions that were found in that kind of upscale community in Barbados in 1971. Not talking about now, taking you back to 1971 and the kind of ethos and culture. And back then, the Methodist Church had decided to invest in property in those kinds of residential areas. but it meant that the children of the minister were now exposed to these kind of deep-seated class and what I call class and color contradictions. I won't go beyond that. So being socialized in Trinidad in that Black Power experience and coming with that kind of consciousness was very helpful for me. So yes, it helped me to relive. In fact, I gave the children the story of us primary school children at Tranquility carrying out our own Black Power demonstration.
Wow.
Yeah, we marched around the school with our fists in the air shouting power because that's what we were seeing around us in the streets, So I shared some of those memories with them.
As I listen to you tell that story, I keep thinking about the regime we're on now, the freedom of movement, at least between the four Caribbean nations now. But you painted a picture of benefits based upon the story, your lived experience in Trinidad and Tobago and across the region as you've journeyed with your father to different places as well. But it's a benefit that has long lived with you, and you become a richer person for the experience. I want us now to link the conversation to what that regime is now and the benefits that flow therefrom.
Yes, I tell people I've gone through 3 accents in my lifetime. I initially used to speak with a Vincentian accent. I then acquired a Trinidadian accent. When I came to Barbados, I remember my friends nicknaming me Wires because that's how I pronounce wire,
Yes.
So and then I've transformed to a predominantly Barbadian accent, But I've come from a family that has been our life experience. My father's Grenadian, served in 8 different served the Methodist Church in 8 different Caribbean territories. My mother, born in Barbados, grew up part of her childhood in Guyana, and I have siblings born in Guyana, Trinidad, and St. Vincent. So that has been our experience, and it has been an enriching and empowering experience, so much so that wherever I go in the Caribbean, I really feel at home, tell the truth. And I'm trying to explain to people that we have to make our region a special place for our youth, for our Caribbean youth. Right now, we are suffering from this brain drain. We are suffering from far too many of our young people, especially our educated and trained young people, migrating out of the region to North America and Europe. Precisely the people we want to keep here to help us with our national development. So if we can give to our young people this beautiful space, not just one territory, but several territories where they feel welcome, this is your home. We roll out the welcome carpet for you. This is where you can roam to search for life and career opportunities, or even just for adventure and new experiences. That is what we are in the business of doing, and making our region so attractive and rewarding for our youth that they don't want to leave the Caribbean. So. And they have choices. It can be Barbados, it can be Trinidad, it can be Dominica, Belize, St. Vincent. This is your home. And I think that is how we have to look at it. Let's not segment ourselves in these little separate island territories. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I was in Ethiopia, 120 million people. That's one country, Yes. We are 280,000 in Barbados. We have to unite. We have to come together and make our region a unified, really first-class region that can compete with the world.
Yeah. I got excited recently when I heard Grenada's Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell speaking to they are accelerating their plans to join the regime as well. So it's growing. Yes. It's growing, and I think it's exciting times to be alive in the Caribbean right now. Our young people, our older people, or all of us have benefits that our foreparents did not have, or are explored in different ways. But now, because you have the freedom to live and work it makes it so much easier to get on with living.
Yes, and do things together. You know, we were speaking about the Barbados Trinidad agenda. I mean, both countries are now engaged in educational reform. We can come together and help each other with that. Both countries have a great concern about crime. You know, we had the Declaration of Port of Spain. We have the George Bridge Declaration. So, yeah, there's so much scope for us doing things together, and for opening up our doors to our fellow citizens and making them feel welcome. You know.
Yeah. These conversations on CARICOM open up our experience, our minds, our knowledge about what's happening in CARICOM, not just as information alone, but to remind us of how similar we are and why we need to learn a whole lot more about ourselves as we do so, but also visit each other. And so, Ambassador Comissiong, thank you for bringing the information to us so that we can get out there and explore it ourselves. But as always, it's wonderful sitting with you, sir.
Thank you very much.
You're
it was
very
my
welcome.
pleasure.
Morning, morning, morning. Good morning. Good morning to you.